Death Row Records wasn't just a label, it was a force. Launched in 1991 by Dr. Dre and Suge Knight, it flipped the entire rap industry on its head. This wasn't East Coast boom bap. This was West Coast G-funk. Thick bass lines, whiny synths, and laid-back flows over violent realities. It all started with The Chronic. Dre left NWA and created a solo album so good, it felt like a movie score for South Central LA. The production? Flawless. The cosign? Snoop Dogg. A lanky crip with a buttery smooth voice and street charisma you couldn't teach. Then came Doggy Style. Then came Platinum Plaques, Billboard hits, MTV rotation. Death Row wasn't knocking on the industry's door. They were kicking it down. But things shifted fast. In '95, Tupac was in jail. Broke, angry, and feeling betrayed. Suge bailed him out for $1.4 million and signed him to Death Row. The result? All Eyes on Me. A double disc classic full of pain, paranoia, and power. With Dre's beats, Snoop's cool, and Pac's fury, Death Row ran the game. But behind the scenes, it was mayhem. Suge ran the label like a mob boss. Artists got jumped. Money disappeared. The East vs West beef escalated from diss tracks to bodies. By '96, Pac was killed in Vegas. Dre left. Suge went to prison. The empire crumbled just as fast as it rose. But for a few wild years, Death Row didn't just shape hip-hop, it terrorized the industry. After getting fired from Uptown Records in 1993, Sean Puff Daddy Combs didn't sulk. He started a dynasty. Bad Boy Records wasn't just a label, it was a lifestyle. Flashy suits, champagne, soul samples chopped up into Billboard hits. Puff didn't just want to make music, he wanted to flex. The first draft pick? A Brooklyn kid named Christopher Wallace, aka the Notorious B.I.G. In '94, Ready to Die dropped, and Biggie didn't just revive East Coast rap, he put it on his back. His voice was slick, his pen was surgical, he made storytelling sound like a movie, and murder sound like poetry. Bad Boy blew up quick. The roster grew. Mace, with the lazy drawl and shiny suits. Faith Evans, Biggie's soulful queen. 112. Total. Even the Locks brought that gritty Yonkers edge. Puff was front and center, dancing in videos, hyping on tracks, and building a brand where he was just as famous as his artists. It worked until it didn't. The tension with Death Row exploded. The East versus West beef wasn't just music, it was real. In March '97, Biggie was murdered in LA, just 6 months after Pac, and Bad Boy, it lost his heartbeat. Puff dropped No Way Out after Big's death, and yeah, it went diamond. But it was mourning wrapped in money. The 2000s saw flashes, Making the Band, Danity Kane, a few comebacks, but it was never the same. Today, with Puff facing serious allegations and locked up, the whole brand feels haunted. Bad Boy made legends, but it also reminds us, not every empire survives the fame it creates. Before independence was cool, Master P made it into a business model. No Limit Records started in the Bay, but its heart was always in New Orleans. P wasn't trying to get signed, he was the label, and he treated rap like a corner hustle. Flood the market, stack the cash, keep it moving. From '96 to 2000, No Limit was a factory. They dropped over 60 albums in 4 years. Same tank-style album covers, same pen and pixel graphics, same street-first energy. And somehow, fans bought it all. The roster was deep. C Murder, P's brother with raw energy, Silk the Shocker, who rapped offbeat but still went platinum, Mystical, a walking flamethrower, Fiend, Mac, Mia X, all solid soldiers in the No Limit army. P was brilliant with the business. He kept 100% ownership, secured a crazy distribution deal with Priority, and flipped the label into movies, merch, sneakers, and even cereal. Dude had rap kids eating sweeties before brand deals were even a thing. But the grind caught up. Dropping too much too fast diluted the hype. The sound got stale. Fans moved on. And when Cash Money came with Manny Fresh beats and younger talent like Juvenile and Lil Wayne, No Limit started feeling old. Still, Master P walked so every indie artist today could run. He made ownership cool before it was a hashtag. And in an industry full of bad contracts, he kept the pen in his own hand. If Death Row was gangsta and Bad Boy was glossy, then Ruff Ryders was straight grit and grease. Founded in the late 90s by Wah, D, and Siobhan Dean, uncles of producer Swiss Beats, Ruff Ryders started as a management company. But once they found their face, it became a movement. That face? DMX. X didn't just rap, he roared, he barked, he cried. His pain was raw, unfiltered, and loud. In 1998, he dropped It's Dark and Hell is Hot, a tortured, aggressive debut that went straight to #1. Then, just months later, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, another #1. 2 platinum albums in the same year. In a time of shiny suits and polished samples, DMX sounded like the streets having a breakdown. The label built fast. Eve held it down for the women. Bars and beauty, no gimmicks. The Locks gave Yonkers that cold weather venom. Dragon, Jin, Swizz Beatz behind the boards, all pushing the Ruff Ryders identity, loyalty, family, and war-ready music. And let's not forget the visuals. Music videos with motorcycles, wheelies in the streets, dogs on chains, Timbs on pavement. It wasn't branding, it was brotherhood on film. But the rise was too fast. X's battles with addiction and the law slowed releases. Swizz became a global producer. The Locks left for more creative control. By the mid-2000s, Ruff Ryders faded into a memory. Still, their legacy is unshakable. They reminded the game that pain sells, but only when it's real. After the storm of death row, Dr. Dre dipped out and hit reset. In 1996, he launched Aftermath Entertainment. And his first release, Dr. Dre Presents The Aftermath, flopped. Critics were calling him washed. The streets weren't feeling it. Then in '99, Dre signed a chaotic, bleach blonde white kid from Detroit named Marshall Mathers, Eminem. He wasn't just good, he was ridiculous. His flow was sharp, his bars were dark. His alter ego, Slim Shady, said things no rapper dared to say, and he made it sound like a cartoon nightmare over Dre's crisp beats. The Slim Shady LP exploded. The Marshall Mathers LP shattered records. M didn't just revive Dre's career, he helped birth a new dynasty. With that success, Shady Records was born. First big move, signing a hungry, shot 9 times mixtape menace named 50 Cent. In 2003, 50 dropped Get Rich or Die Trying. It sold 872,000 copies in its first week. Hooks for the clubs, bars for the block, and beef with everyone. 50 made dissing people into a marketing strategy. From there, 50 launched G-Unit. His crew turned label featuring Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, and Tony Ayo. They took over mixtapes, sold millions, wore bulletproof vests in interviews, and made vitamin water money. Together, Aftermath, Shady, and G-Unit were unstoppable. Dre handled production. M ran the lyrical circus. 50 kept the streets on lock. This was rap's version of the Avengers. They didn't just run the charts, they owned the 2000s. And Dre, that man quietly built 2 empires and sold beats to Apple for billions. Talk about boss moves. Before the blogs, before the playlists, before TikTok, there was Cash Money Records. Founded in 1991 by Brian Birdman Williams and his brother Slim, Cash Money started in New Orleans, selling tapes out of the trunk. They weren't chasing cosigns, they were building demand from the streets up. Their first major wave? Juvenile, BG, Turk, and a teenage gremlin named Lil Wayne, together known as the Hot Boys. In 1998, 400 Degrees dropped, and Back That Ass Up became a cultural weapon. You still hear it at every wedding, club, and cookout. That same year, Cash Money signed a $30 million distribution deal with Universal. And here's the twist. They kept their masters. That's one of the most gangster deals in rap history. But the true golden run started in the mid-2000s, when Lil Wayne evolved from sidekick to centerpiece. Mixtapes like The Drought 3 and Dedication 2 made him the people's champ. By the time The Carter 3 dropped in 2008, Wayne was being called the best rapper alive. And it wasn't even a hot take. Wayne wasn't selfish with the spotlight. He launched Young Money, a label within the label. His 2 biggest picks? Drake, a soft-spoken, Degrassi actor turned hitmaker from Toronto. Nicki Minaj, a Queens MC with Barbie aesthetics and lyrical venom. Together, they own the 2010s. Hit after hit, Grammy wins, arena tours, meme dominance. Wayne was the bridge, and they were the new empire. But of course, the drama followed. Wayne sued Birdman. Albums got delayed. Contracts got shady. Even Drake eventually slid out with OVO. Still, for nearly 20 years, Cash Money and Young Money was a pipeline for rap royalty. And to this day, Birdman still wants you to respect his name. While other labels were chasing trends, Dawg Entertainment was plotting. quiet, calculated, lethal. Founded in 2004 by Anthony Top Dog Tiffith, TDE wasn't flashy, it was focused. It started with one kid from Compton who rapped like a journalist and wrote like a poet, Kendrick Lamar. Early mixtapes like Training Day and C4 showed promise, but it was Section 80 in 2011 that made hip-hop pause. Kendrick was tackling topics like Ronald Reagan, Section 8 housing, and black trauma, all before his debut album even dropped. Then came Good Kid, Mad City. Dre co-signed. The album played like a short film. No skippable tracks, no wasted words, just storytelling, layered production, and cultural impact. TDE's roster didn't stop at Kendrick. Schoolboy Q brought chaos and street wit. Absol gave you dense bars, conspiracy theories, and soul searching. J-Rock was the OG, all heart, grit, and realness. Then came SZA, whose album Control redefined modern R&B and made TDE more than just a rap label. And behind the scenes, no messy PR, no scandals. They dropped music when they were ready, not when the industry demanded. That silence became their aura. Even as Kendrick eventually left the label in 2022, TDE's legacy was set. They proved that you can move like an indie, sound like a classic, and still dominate the mainstream. No gimmicks, no fluff, just talent, vision, and a label that understood art takes time. OVO Sound didn't start as a label. It started as a lifestyle, a mood, a late-night silhouette of Toronto seen through rain-specked glass. Founded in 2012 by Drake, Noah 40 Shabib, and Oliver El Khatib, OVO Sound was less about volume and more about vibe control. Where other labels dropped posse cuts, OVO dropped ambiance. Their signature sound? Minimalist beats, murky pads, delayed snares. It was engineered by 40, built for headphones, and always left space for Drake's confessions, flexes, and subliminals. The roster was intentionally small. Party Next Door, the ghostwriter behind Rihanna's work, and the pioneer of moody trap R&B. Majid Jordan, whose electro soul sound gave Hold On, We're Going Home its shine. Division, delivering late-night heartbreaks over cinematic production. Roy Woods, a melodic chameleon with flashes of brilliance. But OVO was bigger than its artists. The OVO brand became a cultural export. October's very own merch. Annual OVO Fest in Toronto. The owl logo everywhere, from jackets to billboards to tattoos. Drake used OVO to do what most artists can't. Build a self-contained universe where he's the centerpiece, the tastemaker, and the boss. Still, some critics say OVO's artists get overshadowed by Drake. You rarely see full rollouts. No one on the roster has hit his level, or even close. But that might be the point. OVO Sound isn't a label built for breakout stars. It's built for consistency, control, and curation, where Drake gets to shape the sound of a generation, from the shadows and the spotlight. By the 2010s, Atlanta was the undisputed capital of hip-hop, and Quality Control Music was its command center. Founded in 2013 by Kevin Coach K. Lee and Pierre P. Thomas, QC wasn't just another label. It was a modern-day hit factory, built with the marketing savvy of the tech world and the hustle of the streets. Their first major bet? 3 dudes from North Atlanta with colorful flows and chaotic charisma. Migos. Their breakout? Versace, helped along by a Drake remix, and their signature triplet flow. Suddenly, every rapper in the game was mimicking it. Whether you loved it or thought it sounded like an audio spasm, Migos changed rap cadence permanently. QC followed up with a new wave of stars. Lil Yachty, a red-haired teen with no cosigns, offbeat flows, and a whole lot of trolling. Lil Baby, arguably the most impressive growth arc in modern rap. He went from not rapping at all to dropping My Turn, one of the biggest albums of 2020. What made QC different? They treated music like content, viral moments on YouTube, genius level social media strategy, merch, marketing, memes. They understood attention. They also played the long game. QC managed artist brand as much as their bars. Lil Baby didn't just rap. He had partnerships with Foot Locker. Yachty went from SoundCloud to Sprite commercials, but success came with pressure. Migos had internal beef. Yachty's audience shifted, and by the early 2020s, some of the roster started to shift. Still, for the better part of a decade, QC didn't just reflect the culture, they manufactured it. Coach K and P didn't just sign rappers, they built stars, and ran Atlanta like it was Silicon Valley with 808s. At first, YSL looked like a vibe, then it turned into a movement. And now, it's a cautionary tale. Young Thug launched YSL Records in 2016 under 300 Entertainment. It stood for Young Stoner Life, but it might as well have stood for Young Style Legends. Because if one thing defined YSL, it was aesthetic. From sound to visuals to the way they dressed. Dawg wasn't just a rapper, he was a walking contradiction, a gang-affiliated fashion icon, a melodic trap pioneer who also influenced Kanye, a dude wearing a dress on his album cover while running with Atlanta street credibility. He signed a roster of rising stars that mirrored his eccentricity. Gunna, smooth flows, designer fits, luxury rap. Lil Keed, raw energy and hometown love. Strick, Yak Gotti, Lil Duke, all orbiting Thug's gravitational pull. In 2021, Slime Language 2 debuted at number 1. The whole squad was eating BET Awards, Platinum Records, and crossover success. It felt like YSL was building the next generation Atlanta dynasty. Then came May 2022. The RICO indictment hit like a bomb. 28 members arrested. Lyrics cited as evidence. Gunna took a plea. Thug stayed locked up. Lil Keed passed away unexpectedly, adding tragedy to the turmoil. Now, YSL isn't a movement. It's a courtroom headline. The trial is ongoing. The legacy is murky, and Young Thug, once seen as rap's most creative outlier, is fighting for his freedom. YSL proved you could be street and avant-garde at the same time, but they also proved how fast everything can vanish when art, ego, and the law collide. Most labels don't last, but the ones that did changed music forever, and the blueprint they left behind still runs the game today.